This is podcast 22 with Sailesh Prasad. Sailesh, it's been a while. Welcome.
Thank you, Austin. It's good to be on and talking to you today.
Yeah, it's been a while since we talked. Last time we talked was the Friends of 368 outing, right?
Yeah, that was like what, 2 or 3 years ago,
2 years,
maybe
I think, yeah, 2 years ago, because we didn't
2 years
have like an
ago.
outing last time because of COVID, or maybe it was 2 years, 3 years ago, because it's
Yeah,
before COVID.
definitely before COVID. I missed the reunion that was this year because I had a family trip. But I
Mm,
remember I texted you about that, but I couldn't make it.
right,
I
right.
definitely want to make the next one though.
That's okay. I think we're gonna try to throw some winter dinner together with all the Eagles of
Oh, really?
368.
That's really cool.
That's to be determined, right? So I guess people listening in, if they don't know, like Sash, we met through scouting, right? That changes it up from a little bit from the past podcast, where it's mostly school and church for me. Why did you join scouting? I guess we could start there, and then
Sure.
we could talk a little about our motivations for joining.
Sure. So we joined scouting as part of Troop 68, which is based in Berkeley Heights in Union County, New Jersey, right? And
Right.
so my cousins also, like Arun and Akshay, they all,
Mm,
like, their family was from Berkeley Heights as well. And I moved to New Jersey, like my town of Clark, like shortly before they joined scouting. So like
mm,
when I was about like 8 years old, right?
right.
So growing up in my town at that point, I've only lived there for a year. So I really want to spend more time with my family and my cousins and my uncle as well. So
Mm,
scouting, I think for me, like my brother, was a good way to like have like some kind of relationship already established with those people and spend
right.
more time with my family. And also, like, growing up, my uncle and my cousins always were going on hikes and camping, that kind of stuff. So it seemed like a natural transition to go into all those kind of activities with scouting itself.
I see. I see. For me, it's because I saw my friends do it. I saw Garrett do it. I saw Nate Ratisha do it, and then I was like, I want to join in. Sounds pretty cool. I thought the uniforms were pretty cool, and
Yeah,
so just go for it. And then that was Cub Scouts, I think, in fifth grade, and then you just continue on to Boy Scouts and keep doing that.
that's a
Right? I
good
don't.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Like, I did see all the like cool trips that my cousins were always going on, like
Mm,
to Philmont or to like Costa Rica. And
right.
it's like
Right.
kind of
Right.
amazed me. I was like, oh, you can do that stuff as like a in like high school or even yet like younger than
Mm.
that in middle school. That seems surreal. So I think that was also a big part of it too, like you were saying.
Right. Right. And I think like from elementary school, at least in Berkeley Heights, at least when you go from elementary school to middle school, right? You were like in three separate elementary schools, then you all merge into one, right? Or there's like separate troops or packs, I guess, for Cub Scouts, right? And then you merge into 360. I guess you could go to 68 too. But then it's like I didn't meet you at Arun before then. Early on, at least in our scouting career, like we got along a lot. I think we were in the same patrol a lot. We're standing in
Sure.
the same place a lot.
Yeah.
You seem to rank up pretty fast, like for so what's up with that? I was very slow. I think I know why, but why did you talk a little about that?
I don't know. I feel like that's a good point. I don't know. Ranking up,
Mm,
it seemed like a good way to like just be in a more, I don't know, want to say powerful position, but just be more involved in scouting
mm,
in per
right.
se. As like in the beginning, right? You just look up to the people, like the seniors, senior patrol, the senior scouts ahead of you, and ranking up seemed a good way to like just showcase to them that you're ready to to move up in positions.
Right.
And in that same sense, you have like, I don't want to say more power, but just like you have more responsibility, of like more ability to really make stuff happen what you want to do, like make meetings happen, which
Mm,
pertaining to events that you really want to pursue or like stuff you're interested in.
mm,
And also, I think like maybe one reason I ranked up a lot was like I tried to early on in my scouting experience, I tried to make it out for every single camping trip a
I
lot.
think
Like I
that
was
is the
pretty
thing.
much in my
That is
first three
it.
years, I think, like going to every single camping trip. I think I went to both
Mm,
summer camps, Winnebago and Sabattis in my
mm.
first and second years. So I think that really was a big
Boost.
reason why I was able to rank up fast.
I see. I was gonna say that's the reason I didn't rank up fast because my first 2 years, I think I was also doing Chinese school then, and then I didn't continue on in Chinese school. But once I stopped, then I started going on campouts. But I think before then, because it's on the weekends, week campouts are also on weekends, so I wasn't able to go. But I think campouts are a big part of scouting, getting outdoors. You heard that they sold Sabattis?
Yeah, I didn't like I did hear about it, but I didn't like
Uh-huh.
look up the specifics. I remember a couple years ago that there was this big protest going on that they were gonna sell it. and there's like a
Right.
big petition. I remember like signing the petition and like sharing it on my social media to really
Uh-huh.
save the camp. And I
Uh-huh.
thought there was like enough interest to like keep the camp going forward because based on
Mm.
our petitions, but I guess like maybe interest dropped in the last couple of years, which is really sad to see because like we
No,
spend
it's
so much time there.
Yeah, no, I'd say that's like so much of our childhood right there in a way, or
Yeah,
like yeah, teenage years right there at that camp for a whole week, just yeah, being together and then all that training and merit badge and just being outdoors, you know. Right now, scouting has a really bad rep, right? And
yeah,
with the sexual abuse scandals and all that, and I think they sold Sabattis to pay off for that, you
yeah.
know.
Oh,
It was like like when you signed the petition and all, they were already having money issues, but with the child abuse and sexual abuse cases, it like made it worse. Like I think it bankrupted like some organization of scouting, and so then the money they got was through selling these lands off. And
no,
so
I think you're right. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's like for the next generation, they don't have Sabattis anymore, that experience. And I'm just like, that might change a lot of like what
Huh.
scouting is about core, you know, because
No,
you
you're
you
definitely
could,
right
right?
because
Right?
I think like for anybody who's like listening in who like maybe is not familiar with the Boy Scout experience, I think Sabattis was a unique opportunity, at least for us, because a lot
Mm,
of stuff that's done in Sabattis, like the way that they go about running their camp was
mm,
really specific for it. Like all the campers cook for themselves. You're responsible for your own campsites. There's no really oversight behind like the camp staff taking care of you. You're pretty
mm,
much taking care of yourself. You're responsible for cooking your meals, taking charge of like cleaning and all that stuff, like
mm.
depositing it in the correct locations.
Right,
You're not being babied in any kind of way. Well, like
right.
other camps, I don't want to shout out names or like call anybody out, but just most camps I do think like
Mm,
baby you in that sense. It just it feels more of a sleepaway camp than it does like a traditional Boy Scout camp. And I
mm,
think like for a lot of people who are exposed to scouting now are going to kind of miss out in that kind of like independence sense of growth that I think
mm.
Sabattis offers, which is
Right.
kind of sad to see. Hopefully camps will transition more to that kind of sense, but I don't know.
Right. It wasn't even, it was like far away from everything. Like remember the drive up, it's 6 hours, and then it's
Yeah,
like once you got off the highway, 2 more hours into like the wilderness. You know what I mean? And then
yeah,
it's not just you cook your own food, but you had to walk to the commissary like 2 miles. Like we were always the furthest campsite because we were the
true.
biggest troop, right? Delaware. And so
Delaware,
like you had to go pick up your food, walk back. And if you slept in, your whole patrol's gonna yell at you and kill you, right? And you might not even
exactly.
get food that morning. So like there's something lost there. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're right.
Versus
There's like a
like
lot. Yeah,
yeah, versus like mess hall. If you did mess hall dining, it's like someone cooks for you, you just sit down and eat, right? And then that's that. But I think the patrol style cooking and that type of living, it is really sets you apart, right?
I think so.
But
I think like remember like when we always referred to Winnebago as like a merit badge factory. That's what we used it for.
mm,
But like Sabattis, it was just as essential, even if not more essential, for you to develop the skills like besides the merit badges, all those skills of like responsibility, just being
right,
responsible for your like patrol, being responsible for yourself, like making sure like you're just learning like those I guess soft skills in scouting to kind of develop
mm,
as opposed to just traditional like X, Y, and Z merit badge you're trying to get.
right. It's what occurs outside of class. Because then really merit badge classes are only morning, right? 9 to 12. And then
Exactly.
afternoon it was completely free, do what you want. Do you think
Mhm.
scouting helped with time management for you or helped develop that, or you were just it's just something else outside of scouting that helped with that?
I think it did. I think like because a lot of times in scouting, I'd say you have to really account and be
Mm.
aware of a lot of things happening. Like I was gonna give an example of like remember Philmont, like way back in the
Oh
day,
yeah,
we
that's
had
right.
to like
2014.
wake up. Remember that one night where we had a crazy hike the next day of like 14 miles,
Yeah,
and we accounted for that.
when we went to sleep at 12 and woke up at 2 a.m.
Exactly, exactly.
That was a
And we were
roots
hiking
plan.
like and like I feel like a lot of those like being able to aware of like what's coming up the next day, like being
Mm,
able to plan out that schedule and
right.
having the energy to force yourself up to make yourself like as prepared as for that day as possible. Like for
Mm.
example, like currently like my schedule like in medical school, it can
Oh,
get pretty like crazy. So
right, right.
like I'm not trying to like gas myself up, but I do like for like my own daily schedule just based on what I want to do. I wake
Mm.
up every day like 4 a.m.
Wow.
and it just based on like what I'm trying to do, my studying, like other activities I got doing today. I think scouting definitely helped with that. Just based on that, just being forced to wake up for the based on a schedule or
Right.
being forced to make all those events happen, it did help out with that.
I see. I want to dig a little more deep into that because, like, we're talking about this scouting having a bad rep, right? Because of what happened with adults and scouts, right? So we're all Eagles, or we're all over 18 now. So now you can kind of look back and go like, huh, like what skills or what does scouting provide me that school doesn't provide or other organizations doesn't provide? Because there are certain cases, or a lot of scouts who stop because they are doing varsity sports in school, or they're too busy with doing something else, right? And so they can't make the commitment, right? So
True.
why scouting over other things? And do you think so you gave the example of it helping you develop like a waking up early habit, like forcing yourself to follow a schedule, right? What other skills did you take away? Can
I'd
you,
say
off the
like
top of your head too? Yeah.
yeah, like one like really obvious when it comes to mind is just the overall concept of like managing leadership and just having it broken down into like specific jobs that answer to like some kind of supervisor, which answers to an X, Y, and Z supervisor. That's kind of the way I think like I'm in a medical field. It does operate that way in my field. I'm sure
Mhm.
it operates in some similar way in most fields. I would assume. But like for
Right.
example, like if you're your senior patrol leader, and you have your ASPOs, assistant senior patrol leaders under him, and they each answer to the senior patrol leader, and then your troop guides, your patrol leaders, they then answer to your ASPOs, and that kind of like branching framework of learning how to operate that was really really helpful. I think that like because Boy Scouts, at least for our troop, was like a huge troop. Right, at one point this troop was like over 120 kids, maybe
Yes,
more than
that's
that
true.
at some point actually.
Right.
And then as the senior patrol leader, right, you're responsible for managing every single person in that troop, as well
Right.
as in some sense the adult leaders as well. And being able to designate tasks to like certain people, your for leadership, you would go to your assistant senior patrol leader leadership. For like your service, you would go to your service patrol leaders in your the trailer, all the equipment. You go to your quartermaster. Just having the ability to count on your team and
Mm.
trusting in the other people around you and their own skill set and being able to work together and kind of like bridge all those gaps is, I think, one major takeaway. I think any kind of field in the industry or any kind of job, you can have some kind of takeaway from that.
I think our troop was special, and that is a pretty large troop compared to other troops, right? I think even the troop in Clark, you chose to come to Troop 360 not just because cousins are here, because our program was better, more scouts, but recently, like I think our troop numbers have gone down, so we kind of were like at the peak,
I think
right?
so. They were at a
Right?
peak.
I think we were lucky in the way, like I think starting with the Bahamas trip, our crew, I think we were really like built together because we all were scuba diving, Bahamas was relatively lax experience, right?
True.
And I remember your Mr. Chandria, and he was trying to put together the Philmont crew for next year. He was really thinking forward until the year after,
He
right?
was.
Yeah, right. And he's like, this would be a great crew. And then voila, like a year later, right, we were at Philmont. You were a chaplain, right? At Philmont, I think it
I
was.
was a reporter slash reporter, I think was
Oh,
the
right.
chaplain, I think was Greg.
Oh, it's great. Oh, right. You're right. You're right. That's right. I'm mixing it up. You're a reporter, right? You were taking
There you go.
pictures and trying to write up about like the whole experience.
Yeah,
And
I made the
so,
video and the article, wherever the article was posted today.
right, yeah, wherever it's posted today. I think Philmont, it kind of like it's like Sabattis is one level, Philmont is like next level. You're not just in one place the whole week. You're backpacking. You have to
Yeah.
travel, carry everything, carry in, carry out, right? Everything you have. And so, yeah, that was any other backpacking experiences like that, or that was once in a lifetime thing for
I
you.
think that was once. I mean, I went twice, so I guess it was twice in a lifetime.
Twice in a lifetime,
But
right?
yeah, I can never describe anything in my life that has been like Philmont, to be honest. I think that I'm really glad that we pursued that when the opportunity did present itself. I think it was amazing. Um, yeah, it was yeah, once in a lifetime, 100%.
Physically exerting, right? And it really
Yeah,
tests the group dynamic,
especially
right?
like when you remember that one day when you ran out of water. I mean, we all ran out of water that one day, and Mr. Federico was like, we took charge of the whole crew and made us drive to the next campsite, like hightail it, but then like making us like move like 4 miles an hour.
Was that after Baldy or after we climbed Baldy, or was
I
that
think that was after Tube of Time.
Oh, it was after two. Then it was Visto Grande, I think. We got to the campsite, the pipe, the pipe, no
Yeah,
water. That was it, right?
yeah,
Oh man, we were drinking chlorine tablet treated water. Like you would think
indeed.
you would think you want to drink like that water over like people hearing it. Like you think you want your water to be chemically treated before you drink it rather than like, hand pumped, but we all wanted hand pumped
No,
fresh
hand
water.
pump was the way to go.
Right?
If it was
Right?
not hand pumped, you were basically was pretty nasty.
It was pretty nice because the water turned yellow too, right? And it had the
Yeah,
chlorine
yeah.
taste to it.
And
Like
remember,
so
like they duct taped the water at some point to
the
fix
pipe,
it, the pipe, but
yeah,
it
yeah.
broke. Like
Oh
they tried
yeah,
to,
yeah.
yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, I did not trust the water coming out of that pipe. Yeah. Apparently Arun said like after you guys came back the second time, the duct tape was still there.
Duct
So
tape was still there,
so
indeed.
like,
Yeah, so I guess it worked enough
they
for them to
never
keep it.
fixed it. Yeah, they worked it out. They never fixed it or anything. Right. But I guess that's the adventure side of scouting, right? And I think we were kind of fortunate in getting that. But I guess the other side is the requirements, right? There's still we both made Eagle somehow, right? And
Somehow.
the big thing is Eagle Scout project, right? I think you did something in the Watchung Reservation. I forgot exactly what you did. For me personally, I never had anything like that in school. You plan something out, you have to buy the materials and you have to create and like oversee the entire project from beginning to end,
Mhm.
right? So how was your experience with that?
I think I would say it was a good experience. I did way too long. I was a life scout for like 3 years until like finally hopped down my Eagle Scout project to the very end, like most people on our troop do, to be honest.
Mm, cardiac
But yeah,
eagles.
cardiac eagles indeed. But yeah, so I think the project was really cool, I think, because I really enjoy history. It's like one of my I guess pastimes to learn like a lot about
Mm,
cultures and like civilizations, and just really like record the mystery of the past and see what like how they survived back then. So the Washington Reservation project was really interesting for me per se because we were able to like archaeologically excavate the ruins of like an old mill and kind of like
mm,
showcase the foundation, showcase the remains. Before it was like covered in brush. There's pictures online, I think, of like how it
oh,
looked at before. It was covered in
right,
trees, covered in like leaves and brush, a bunch of bushes, and it was like just it was just unclear as to what you were seeing. Like the old mill that was once part of Washington Reservation.
right,
So in the project, we were able to like dig up the old foundation, dig up all the old like pillars and stuff like that that was once part of it, and kind of showcase it to the public as to what was once part of it. And that was really cool because like I was able to almost be involved in some kind of archaeological excavation in for a
right,
sense, and like
right.
not just that, but lead that kind of mission as well. That was a unique opportunity where I don't think I would have been able to do that in any other sense unless I per se became an archaeologist.
Right.
um, it was also interesting because I was able to like use resources outside of scouting and kind of
Mm,
intersect that with the project because at the time I was interning with an architect back in Clark,
mm,
and so the old foundation was very unclear as to the architecture was like oriented, but there
mm,
were some old diagrams from the past, so I was able to use the architect based on his like perspective, his like knowledge to kind of like use his so he came in to visit the site,
right,
showed me where the foundation was most likely so we could excavate it. And that was
right,
really cool also because like I was able to see stuff from like my other interests outside scouting intersecting with like my scouting interests, which is really awesome.
right.
And also I think the Eagle Scout project was really cool because it kind of like was a final, I guess, hurdle or the final test of
Yes.
like your scouting like knowledge. You were had to be able to not just plan the project, but like create the logistics on this other side of it. Like we had to coordinate what tools we were getting, who's gonna bring those tools, who's gonna pay for those tools, the fundraising aspect, like
Right.
the just finding the manpower, my friends, my family, like all theater scouts to come and be able responsible enough to like sign up and still show up to those events and still help me out, which I'm really grateful for. And
Mm.
yeah, I think overall, like, it was great. It
Right, right, right. It was part of your project building a wall.
wasn't building a wall, but what we did was we put in like large wooden I don't want to say pillars, more like
Posts.
posts, wooden posts to
Right.
identify where the mill was once at. So we put in 4 posts to identify the corners of the structure.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but I thought maybe you or if someone else is selling their projects like we're gonna build a wall, and it's like Trump was getting elected then, so there's
Uh,
like everyone was like, yeah, I want to build a wall, and then it's like everyone rushed to to help out or something like that.
I mean, we
Look,
found the wall. We didn't build the wall per se. We found the wall.
I see. We found the wall. You're right, the wall that was there before. I see.
Exactly.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you briefly talked about doctor. You're trying to become a doctor, right? Is this your second year, first year?
Yeah, so this is I just finished my first year at
Oh,
medical school.
uh-huh.
So I'm enjoying my summer break and I'm going back into my second year in like about a month.
Oh boy. How did you get set on this path? Did you know like from scouting that you were gonna go for doctor, or like it was something they're going on in college, you figured you discovered this is what you want to do?
I think like my dad's also a physician, so I think he also had some kind of influence on me being a doctor. But I wouldn't say entirely. I think growing up with scouting, I would say I really admired like being able to assist people like when they were
Mm,
needed help in some kind of either the CPR classes we took or the merit badges when it came to that kind of stuff. I've always kind of admired uh, people who are able to offer some kind of like lasting, impactful service
mm,
to another person. I think, and just based on like I've like, shadowed and interned at like nursing homes for many years, and like that kind of like made a lasting impact as well. And I kind of wanted to just be able to do that on a very, I guess, like intellectual level, like be able to think about like, disease processes, think about like microbiology,
mm,
and be able to articulate that into like a clinical setting, be able to practice that a lasting impression on somebody. And like I think medicine is the most like I guess
mm,
impactful way for me to make an impact because it suits me in many ways. So
mm.
that's why I think I was set on that path.
Gotcha. Now within medical, it's like not oh phew, I finally choose a field in medical, right? But then within the medical field, it's like subfields that you gotta like specialize in, right?
Yeah,
Are you still trying to figure it out, or have you figured it out, or or what's happening right now, I guess?
yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I feel like so many different routes you can pursue.
Yeah.
Early on in the first year of medical school, I tried to like really capitalize on all the shadowing opportunities offered at the hospital nearby.
Mm,
So I shadowed like surgery, I shadowed like dermatology, I shadowed
mm.
radiology. And a
Wow.
lot of that stuff when it comes to surgery is very procedural. But I realized, and I enjoy procedure. I enjoy like doing the same, like a very methodical approach when it comes to care.
Mm.
But my biggest issue when it came to like procedural stuff or surgery was like the hours are just insane, man. Like they're like I was watching this one surgery. It was like a colorectal cancer surgery where they're taking out a tumor
Oh
from the large
man.
intestine, and it was supposed
Right.
to be a 5 hour surgery, but they found a second tumor in the guy's body,
Oh
and it
my
turned into like a
gosh.
9 hour surgery. And I don't think based on like my schedule, or like my personal like values, I
Right.
can like allocate that kind of time at like 9 hours straight,
Yeah. Yeah.
one
Right.
surgery, and then you can have more than one surgery per day,
Mm.
and just being on call, I don't think it's for me.
I
So
see.
I'm leaning more towards like the medicine aspect, like cardiology, endocrinology, like, where stuff like the schedule is more like articulated, but you're
Right.
still able to like have like pretty complex cases.
So the surgery cases or doctors, their schedule is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
You really have to be a certain type of person, or that is that's like that drives you. Like
I
you
think
want
so.
like you go to work, you want to take out that tumor,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's
It's
like
something like that.
I think when the guy, like the surgeon I was watching, like he found a second tumor, he was almost excited to like continue the surgery. I was like, at that
I
point, I
see.
just want to go home.
Yeah. Right. I see. Yeah, I probably couldn't even step in the room. Right. But I guess that's more kind of like me, right? You kind of talked about history being an interest of yours, right? That's kind of more like I guess on the side or like a hobby besides but the yeah, I mean the career, you have a career, but then like talk history on the side, right? And I think one of
Yeah,
the things with scouting is that I don't know about today's world, but we just kind of talk about like our different backgrounds, where we came from, right? Like I grew up with like more Christian values, right, through church and all that. I think in discussions with you, you grew up with a Hindu background, right? So I actually don't know a lot about Hinduism at all. You learn some of it in school, but like who remembers, right? And then,
Yeah.
but I think when I was doing my thesis, I was writing on the Opium Wars and the Sepoy Rebellion in India. So I kind of ran into like Hinduism. It felt to me that it used to be like a very multifaceted religion. Like there wasn't just one religion called Hinduism. Like for Christianity, it's like Christ is like the center of that religion, right? For Hinduism, I always felt it was like localized. And then because like the British kind of like conglomerated India, right, when they colonized it, like it became like one centralized religion. Do I have a like a right grasp on it, or like talk to me in like more detail?
Yeah. I think I think you're generally right. I think you're just based on like I'm not a huge I'm not a Hindu scholar, but based on like
Mm,
growing up with it, from what I've
right.
seen, it does present, I think, like in a lot of ways, like geographically located, like certain like I'd say it's like conglomerates or like specific sects of Hinduism are localized based
Mm,
geographically. It's like from
right.
my where my family is from, like we have a certain like we value certain gods or certain practices, I would say,
Mm,
more than others. While per se in like a different location, they might value a god more so, one god more so.
mm,
But the I think the thing is that makes all of those interconnected is
mm,
that every sect like recognizes the same figures. It's just they
right.
pursue or they value certain aspects or certain deities more so than the others. And that's the distinguishable features between like the different sects based on geography.
Gotcha. But is there like the same one set of gods? Like you know how like a Greek and Roman gods, there were like multiple gods, and then like I
Yeah.
guess Athens, you worship Athena. That's your city's god. But there's still like it's not like one city has one set of gods and the other has a different set. You know what I mean? They're still the
Yeah,
same. You just emphasize one more than the other, kind of like that.
yeah, exactly. And even also like
Mm,
there can also be like differences based on like how you the name of the god. In
mm,
Hinduism, like gods can be referred by like a multitude of different titles. Like
oh,
similar to how like Jupiter can be Zeus
right.
in like Rome versus like
Greek.
versus Greek. But the difference is in Hinduism, like it could still both still exist in Hinduism with different names. Um and also another complicated thing is like different like gods can like present themselves as like different like manifestations. Like in Hinduism, is the
Mm,
whole concept of the avatar, like avatar, um
oh wow.
like a god can manifest himself in like
Mm,
human form or a form outside of like the traditional deity form, and you can
right.
also refer to the god by that name as well.
Gotcha. Deity form and like a mortal form in a way.
Exactly, like, kind of like that. If you ever
I
heard of like,
see.
if you ever read about like the Mahabharata or like the Ramayana, if you heard about them,
No, sorry. What are these like important Hindu books, like
kind
classics?
like
Yeah.
they're like the Iliad and the Odyssey for like Hinduism,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
right? And
Gotcha.
like different gods like will manifest in those epics as different beings to like have some kind of influence as what's going on in the world.
Right. So I'm kind of curious because like talking about like centralization, decentralization of like these religions, right? Like for Christianity at least, you have Christ as a center figure. Before that is like Judaism, right? That's why we like have an Old Testament. It's like so Christianity does have roots in Judaism, right? But I guess Hinduism, it seems like it's localized. There's no like what did it start out like centralized and then it fragmented, or was it always like kind of local? Like how did it begin in a way?
That's the great question. From like what people have like told, it's not verified. I don't know if it's verified based on like data. What people have told me,
Mm,
like a long time ago, different geographic locations had different deities, and all these like groups were clashing at some point based on
right.
religious warfare. And I think a lot of like some of the kings of the old days wanted to stop this kind of like religious like clashes, these kind of
Mm,
unnecessary wars. So they wanted to just create a uniform like religion, Hinduism, in order
right.
to allow everybody to pursue whichever deities or whichever practice they want to practice, but still acknowledge the rest, or there would be no more, I would say, unrest that would be unnecessary. But I don't know if that's true, as it's like what I've heard from like my family, what
Oh,
I've
that's
heard from like
okay.
people. Yeah,
Like what I know from Christianity, like I only know from what I hear too. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I don't suppose that I am the central authority on this. You said like you're not the Hindu scholar, well, I'm not the Christian scholar too. So
yeah,
we just know we just know what we're taught in a way, right? And
exactly.
actually, if we stand on this idea that we know and that this is it, this is the truth, I feel that's what causes religious warfare. you know, because like by you knowing or you're the center of truth, then like that indirectly means like everyone else is wrong, you know, or people who don't stand with you or
Or
blasphemous, I guess,
yeah,
you know. So then I think that creates issues. But like I don't know. The U.S. today, it feels kind of like it's very secular. You know, it's like we don't
yeah,
talk much about religion. We don't like we don't most people don't even go to church, right? Or see the point or go to temple or wherever, right? Or you do those things, but then Monday to Friday you live a different type of life, right? So what has religion provided for you or being a Hindu? And you know, like Americans like usually mostly Christian, right? We say
yeah,
we're like or a Christian country, whether that's true or not, and that's another thing. But it's rooted a lot in Christianity. So growing up like as a Hindu and like and you see aspects of Christianity, you know, do you try to relate to it? Do you differentiate certain things like you know, there's that conflict, you know, the different identities. How did you like get to this
yeah.
point, I guess?
That's a good question. I think when it comes to mine is like
Mm.
growing up, a lot of like my friends growing up in school were like go to like CCD.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what CCD was like I think you guys did it for like it's like church school. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I never went to CCD, but like
Okay.
it's I guess it's like a church after school thing. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I'm not too I didn't do it, so I wouldn't know. But
Yeah,
like I did see like a lot of people like in my school would just talk about it outside of it, and like kind of like I guess like a lot of friendships would kind of form
yeah.
based
Mm,
on that. So I felt like it
mm.
was like a way to like differentiate me from the other students in my school because I think almost every student in my school was Christian or they were or Catholic in some sense.
Oh wow.
My town at least. So
Mm.
that kind of like was like some kind of gap, which was like
Yeah.
kind of hindered some kind of I guess common ground finding early on in my childhood.
Mm,
Um, but also like it's I think the biggest thing for me when it came to I guess Hinduism
mm,
is like finding a concept of like morality. I would say like finding
mm.
what's good, what's considered like the right action, and what's considered the wrong action. So I think like
Gotcha.
that's the important like I won't say importance, but I think that was one of the more important things for me when it came to religion. I think
Mm.
also it relates to like any kind of religion. I would say is just
Right.
finding some realized understanding of what like what to do in certain situations, what is the right thing to do,
Right.
and what is the wrong thing to do.
Right.
The issue about that is you can take it to extremes, right?
Yes. Right. Right.
But I think generally you can be sensible as to how to like, go about that kind of understanding.
Are certain gods in Hinduism more violent than others? Do you know what I mean? Like this is just from my knowledge, right? Like
Yeah.
Ramanujan, he had a family god, right? I don't know if you guys have family gods, but Ramanujan, the famous mathematician, right? He like there's something with like leaving India. It's not good to leave India in a way, right? And then his mom like prayed to the family god, and then I think she saw a vision, and the god was like, you should let him go, right? Go to Britain to learn more
Hmm.
math, you know, and then that's when his mom let go and said
Yeah.
like, you know, fine, you can go, right? And then he did go to Britain, and then he churned out a lot of good math work. For him, like I guess the family god was a very important aspect of what they did, right? So talking about morality, like if you said that different Hindus have different gods, are like some gods like uh emphasize a certain trait more than others?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
do. I do see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So there's like this Trinity that exists. Like it's a very common Trinity that
Okay.
I think almost every Hindu will like recognize.
Mm.
There's like Brahma, the creator. So
Okay.
he's responsible for like creating life, creating like human beings, creating us into consciousness. And there's
Okay.
Vishnu, the preserver, who's responsible for like taking care of you. Like he's considered like the doctor, I would say, like being responsible for like healing diseases, like being
Right.
responsible for just like as you pursue life, like you're okay, you're not like deteriorating. And
Mm.
lastly, there's Shiva the destroyer, and Shiva is responsible for like destroying life, ending it, and so in order to create more life later on, right? That those are considered like the three, like the creator, the preserver, and the
Right.
destroyer.
Destroyer.
Like that's the cycle I would say that life kind of revolves around.
Uh-huh.
So like for certain things, you would pray to certain those deities
Mm.
per se for like specific things. There's also a multitude of gods you would pray to. I would say for like one thing that comes to mind is like Ganesh. Ganesh is like the god with the elephant head. If you've seen before, like very
Uh,
common.
Sort of. Yeah, I get the general impression, but yeah.
He's like a really big god for like my family per se, because he's all about education. And like
Ah,
like every year, like before school started, like we would get all our textbooks and present it to his altar so that they can get
oh,
blessed a little bit. So like when we did study, we'll be blessed by the God's education, and that could bolster or just impact our studying just little bit, so we could study a little bit more or get some more out of it.
gotcha. But you said there's like a god, this destroyer god, right? Who
Yeah.
wants the destroyer god? Is it like people in the military, you know? And then what would people like who have the destroyer god as the main god, like get in conflict with the creator god who like creates things? You know what I mean? It seems like those two are like natural conflicts to each other.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question, or a good point. But I think the whole point of the destroyer is to destroy life in order to create the resources or to create the whatever you need to create new life. Like you're not able, if there's
Oh,
that, you're kind of losing those resources again. So Brahma can then make, the creator can make new life from it. Just an infinite cycle.
gotcha. Right. I think there's something like Christianity in that too. It's like life and death. You know, if you like Christ, if he didn't die, he couldn't resurrect again and become like new life. And so it is like, I guess without death, you can't have life. But then life, death. Anyways, it's kind of like the cycle you
Yeah.
described. Right. Interesting. And so I guess education, right? You present the textbooks to God of like education. But what's his name again?
His name is Ganesh.
Ganesh. But I guess for you, you're trying to be a doctor right now. So is that like preserving in a way? And you know, like does your sense of morality kind of like um you think about like this God, and then it kind of like the sense of morality flows from that. Because like think about like COVID, you know, like in America, we have a lot of people don't want to wear masks, don't want to get COVID shots,
Mhm.
right? And then they do end up getting COVID, you know, after they've been yelling and screaming at doctors and how they're part of this big conspiracy, you know, and then they get presented to you, and then now they're sick. Like for me, like personally, like even though it sounds bad to say, like I don't like I just don't want to treat them because like you've been like yelling, cursing at me, you know, for like all this time, and now you're sick, like you want treatment from me, like what's
Yeah.
up with that, so like does religion help you like overcome that like um I guess natural feeling to like screw you you know what I mean?
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah. That's. I think a lot of people feel that same way, or like at least have that thought in their head when they do like see somebody, maybe like maybe lacks like maybe the knowledge or like the right base of knowledge in order to really
Mm,
understand what's going on with COVID. But yeah, I think that religion. I do think about when I do see patients who like maybe
mm,
are not, I do because I do see patients currently as part of like our training. We're
right.
not like treating them in the same level as actual doctors do right now. We
Mm,
do try to help them a little bit. Like
right.
we do think about like I do think about like, ways to like bring myself in their head, like try to like um be able to empathize with them.
Right.
And I think religion or just my past experiences in my life, just the way life has kind of shaped me
Mm,
so far, do
right.
have an impact for me to determine like what is ways to relate to them, for me to find some kind of common ground. So just to
Mm,
get their perspective,
right.
just to find a way to be able to maybe get them going in the right direction. I
Is
don't know
that
if I,
some no
I don't
I
know.
think that's huh, it's okay,
No,
I'm
I was
just
gonna say
talking.
maybe I didn't say that as well as I should have. I don't know if that was clear.
That's okay. I'll ask a follow-up question to that then. It's like you kind of want to sympathize and empathize with them, you know, like kind of put yourself in their shoes and then
Exactly.
help them based on the help that they need. But then it's
Exactly.
like, is that because Sailesh naturally gets Smileish? You know, that was your nickname in scouting, right? Is that because you're Smileish, you know, or is it because you know there's something deeper, you know, like I guess like how you were brought up in Hinduism, or because I'm having this like crisis of, is it just me, you know, like that wants to do good for people, or is it because of the values I was raised with, or because of the group I'm in, you know what I mean? I don't know if yeah you ever
No,
had that thought.
that's a great that's a great point.
Mm,
Well, I guess like the way you were raised,
mm,
the way the experiences that shaped you
right.
is what really helped define you as you. Is well, not defined, but they really helped influence the person you are today. Like
Yeah,
you're not just those experiences, but you do have some takeaway points from those experiences, which
agreed.
helps you become like shape your character. It shaped
Right.
the thought process. It shapes like what you value, right?
Mm, right.
But I
Yeah.
think they're kind of like hand in hand in some aspects.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So you feel that way in your life too then, right? It's
Yes, like you were saying, I would say like, a lot of like the Smileish thing.
mm-hmm,
That maybe it's not just because like the way I was, I don't know, want to say born, but the way I, not just with the way I was like I am, but the
mm.
experiences I had previously kind of influenced me to have that kind of perspective that become, I guess, Smileish. I don't know.
Right, right. I see. Well, I guess I have one remaining question on Hinduism. I guess I have a lot, but this is like the main one. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
like I think we like even Christianity, I think, where it's influenced a lot by what's happening in the world events. You know, like I think the Reformation, the Catholic Church was influenced a lot by world events or like secular things, right? For
Definitely.
Hinduism, like it wouldn't be what it is today without like British colonization, whether that's good or bad, right?
True.
But British colonization definitely influenced what happened in India,
True.
right? Is this a very divisive topic to talk about in India today? The impact of what the British left behind, or no, it's pretty open.
Um, I wouldn't, I don't know if it's divisive, I would say in like some aspects,
Mm,
because like I think a lot of people attribute like the big um like gap or like the loss of like communication between India and Pakistan as being
mm,
attributed to the British and like losing that kind of relationship between like the Islamic culture and and the Hinduism sense, because there's a
right.
lot of like anti-Muslim feelings still in India today. Like a
Mm,
lot of like mobs still form to hurt or
mm,
derail people who do practice Islam, which is really hard to see. And I think a lot
right.
of people do attribute that as to British colonization, like finding some way to create a divisiveness like
Mm,
between the people, so they were able to have even a firmer grasp on them. Because India, if India itself was divided, how would they fight back with a divided country, right?
right. You need,
And
yeah.
also like one more like aspect I would say is like I think Christianity is becoming like a much more pronounced religion in India. Like a lot of my
Mm,
family has converted to Christianity.
mm.
I actually have an uncle who's a priest.
Oh
He's
wow.
yeah, he converted. Just like it's nothing like it's not bad. It's just interesting to see that just like
Right.
the long term implications of like colonization even
Mm.
today.
Like, but what before the British arrived, right? You say like Pakistan, India. Pakistan's mostly Muslim, right? India mostly Hindu, right? How did they get along then? And what did the British do to kind of drive them apart?
I
You
think
know
a
what I
lot of
mean?
yeah, I think
Did they just not like prize or like just kind of like make religion as like the separating factor with us? Like you can have your religion, I can have my religion. Let's just live in peace. And that was kind of how it was.
I think a lot of it, the reason like it was okay or like there was like some good communication, there was like a good sense of like community, like
Mm,
before the British came, because remember like the Mughal Empire came from like way back when,
mm, mm.
from like the Afghanistan, Pakistan area,
Right.
they came to
Right.
India with like their dynasties, and what was great about them, even though they were like conquerors per se, was they had a lot of religious tolerance, and they allowed
Mm,
Hindus and every I think every religion to practice whatever religion they wanted to back then for them. So I
mm,
think going from that to the British, I think where they wanted to create some kind of polarization within the communities, and
mm,
I think a lot of like traditional Indian like values maybe or like identification was kind of lost with colonization too, because like if you look at like the Indian culture, like what was considered like the ideal like self-image after colonization was like a traditional whitish appearance, white colorization of skin,
oh
like
wow.
more traditional Western appearance.
Uh-huh.
Like a lot of changes came with that, and I think that
Right.
really led to like a lot of divisiveness too.
Is there like still a caste system in India or is like social rank? Is that part of Hinduism or is that a social like thing outside of Hinduism?
Um, it
Is it offensive to talk about now too?
I don't think so.
Or
We
no?
still, my family is like in a certain caste actually.
Oh,
We're in
really?
like
Oh.
Kama caste. That's part of Andhra Pradesh. But besides the point, that's not really that important.
It's
Whatever.
okay. That's all
Um,
good.
like the caste system, I think, is a little bit important because like the top of the caste are considered like the Brahmins, and
Mm,
Brahmins were way back when, were the people who were responsible for communicating with God. They were considered the priest caste, so
mm,
they held the most power.
right.
And not all Brahmins today per se are priests, right?
Mm,
But you still see how like their descendants are still considered like the highest caste in some sense, right?
I see.
Where they
Is that
have like
part of Hinduism or is that a separate thing that emerged like just because of society in India?
I don't know for a fact, but if I was going to take a guess on it, I would say more so emerged than it as being part of the culture.
I see. I see. But you said you were part of a certain caste. Like, where is that? You know what I mean? Or
Oh
do
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think we're like under the Brahmins. The Kamas are under the
You're
Brahmins.
under the Brahmins. I
Yeah,
see. I see. And there's like an untouchable class, right? It's
yeah,
like the
that's
lowest of the low,
yeah.
right?
It's
Right.
sad to see. Yeah,
Yeah. Is this is like so I guess this is how like and you're born into a caste, you remain in that caste, right? You can you like go up or down, or is it just that is your place in life in a
I
way?
think if you marry into a higher caste, you're able to move up.
Oh, really? But is
I
that
think
like,
so.
is it based on patriarchy? Like, if the male marries into like a female with a higher caste, they can get pulled up. But if like female
I'm not too
marries into,
sure.
no,
I'm
because I
not
don't
too.
know
I'm
either. Yeah.
not too sure, but I do know like uh in India, like people do traditionally try to marry into the same caste, from what
Mm,
I've seen and heard.
I
I
see.
know, but I don't think it translates to the U.S. Like I don't think like I per se would how to marry into the same caste as a U.S. person, a U.S. person. Like that would
So
be too.
many things get melted in the melting pot when you go to
Yeah,
the US,
yeah,
right? It's like a completely different set of values.
yeah,
Because like, and
exactly.
people in the US, they're like, what the heck? You know, social caste that lasts beyond your lifetime. What's this? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Right? It's not understandable by Americans. You know, Americans like believe in the American dream, right? You come to this
exactly.
country with nothing, and then you work hard. I guess it's work smart, but people don't
Work
say that.
smart.
You work hard and you can climb up the social ladder, make the money you want, and then become successful, right? And so, what do you think about that? The American dream, this melting pot, versus like I guess our background, right, coming from outside the U.S.
I think it's really good in theory, I think.
Mm,
But I think it's hard to like translate that into like not, I don't think it's as effective for everybody
mm,
because not everybody comes with the same level of like I guess financial background or same level of
yeah.
resources. So
Mm,
it's really hard to set yourself up for success because I think in America, like
mm.
the more successful you are, the easier it is to get more successful, right?
Oh, that's
If you
true.
have
Yeah.
like let's say $1 million, right?
Mm,
You can invest a huge amount of that in the stock market and get a huge return in a couple of years, right?
yeah,
But if
that's
you're
right.
like going day to day, like trying to make ends meet, right? You're not going to have the ability to invest that money or put it somewhere where
Yes,
it can grow, right? Where
that's right.
it's not, and then I think a lot of the American dream came down to like back in the 1800s,
Mm,
where, or maybe even like late 1700s, early 1800s, where was Western migration to like California to the Midwest, where there was
yeah.
all that untamed territory, right?
Uh-huh. Right.
Where you really could set yourself up for success because there's so much stuff you could do outside of that. But today it's really hard because it's the job
There's no
market
more
is not
place to move to.
exactly.
Unless you want to go to Mars, right?
exactly. There's only so much opportunity I think that's here, and when there is opportunity, I think it stems from like a lot of it stems from already being sustainable, but like in certain ways where like you have ability to invest
Mm,
or pursue something when you're already set up, right?
right. I always like to think of it like if you had $1 million versus a dollar and you have 1% interest rate at the bank, right? The guy with $1 million, I think they get I don't know, they get at least 1,000, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, right. But the guy with the dollar, you get like a cent, right? So it's
exactly.
like you have money, you make more money. But I think it's also the other thing, the unspoken thing without money is that if you're up there, you have connections, right? You're
True.
connected with important people. That's unmeasurable. But I think that's very important with humans because we want to get to know people like us, right? And so we kind of like form groups, form cliques, right? Maybe that's what originated like social groups or whatnot, so or social standing, social, yeah. But I guess I think scouting is a great like way to break down like or kind of melt pot, like for me and Matt Sylvester, we have. I always use us as an example because we have polar personalities, right? I think if we were just in school, we would never have gotten along. But it's
Yeah,
because we were in scouting, we're like best friends. You know
true.
what I mean? Or it's like there's a deeper bond there that goes beyond that wouldn't have been there if we weren't in scouting. You know what I mean? Same thing for you. It's like if we didn't meet in scouting, would I have gotten to know you as much? I don't think so. You know
I
what
don't
I
think
mean?
so. Yeah.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
It's crazy how much like shared experiences kind of define like your relationships with people
Right.
going forward.
Right. Right. I think so. You could always pull back to that common memory, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Celebrating my birthday at Philmont, and
Yeah.
at Sabattis, Andrew Stecker playing the bagpipes. Yeah. Or like even just walking like take camp showers, or
Dude,
things like that, right? Yeah.
after a week of like in the dirt and the mud and the flies in your hair, those were lasting
Yeah,
memories.
getting eaten by mosquitoes, right? Yeah. Or getting a slush puppy. You remember that? That's
I do
that's
remember
like
a
the
slush puppy
highlight of afternoons.
clearly. Spent way
Right,
too much money
right.
there.
It was worth it though. It was great. I still like slushies. You know they have like at McDonald's now? The
And
new
so that is
slushies? No, 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 McDonald's. Like they have slushies.
really like slush
Yeah.
puppies, traditional
Yeah,
ones, or
slush puppies.
no
Like they only have
way.
two. They have mango and watermelon.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
I miss like all those crazy flavors they had. Like remember like the kamikaze it's about us?
One of each flavor. Yeah, one
Yeah.
squirt of each. I remember. I remember.
Oh,
Yeah, you
oh.
you went for that. Yeah. Right, right. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, you get to mix those flavors. Yeah, you like to mix flavors. I always just went for one and just like that's what I go for. I loved watermelon. That was my favorite flavor. But then I always
Kamikaze.
mixing it up. Yeah, I want the kamikaze. Order up. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's hard to imagine that it's like it's not there anymore. It's all gone. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you remember our last year Sabattis, like the trees got cut down and whatnot?
Yeah, yeah, I
You
do
you remember
actually.
why it was? Was it because of disease or was it because like they were logging it to make money?
I remember like somebody was I think Joe was telling me he was working at a time there that it was
Uh-huh.
because of some kind of like disease, some kind of like maybe fungus or moss was growing on them and it was like
Uh-huh.
spreading a lot.
Right.
But I also feel like also they cut down a lot of trees. It may not just have been a disease by itself.
Yeah, they used the disease as an example. They thought like this group of trees seems very likely to be infected, so let's just cut out more trees
Yeah,
just in
might as
case.
well.
Yeah, yeah, take advantage of it. That's probably what happened. Yeah, because like usually it's like a very scenic, not scenic, but it's just very shady. Like you have shade as you
Yeah,
walk to Council Point, right? But then like after they went in and cut everything, it's like completely different. It's just like it doesn't feel. It's like when did people start coming? You know what I mean?
yeah. I
Yeah.
remember the walk like seemed almost like you were it was like a long experience just walking to South Council Point. It
Yeah.
seemed like a long journey. We're walking through like the shade, like it was also like nighttime, right? So it was
Right.
very, very you're almost like in the moment, like it seemed like a huge artist experience. The final day, you're sort of kind of
Right.
tired. But after like it cut it down, it seemed like you just teleported there. It was so fast.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that was always interesting. The walk to Council Point, it's like at different moments it felt like different lengths
And
in a
also
way.
the this camp staff was holding those torches, like
Yes, the Spotsy skit, right?
yeah,
They did the Botsy skit. Yeah. That always stuck with me. It's like when the chief was like grabs the bird in the hand and goes like, is it alive or dead?
exactly.
The person says alive, the chief kills it, but if the second person's like it's dead, and then he let it go, and then the third person, I guess the third person's lucky, he gets to learn from the other two. If he didn't learn from the other two, that's kind of
True.
dumb, but maybe he just knew it like because he's good, and then he's just like you have the ability to give life or give death. Yeah, that's power, I guess. I don't know. That's always stuck to me in a way. Certain skits in scouting, right? There's some silly skits in scouting, but I feel that's a solemn, serious one,
Oh yeah.
right? That's really all I had. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
Nothing in particular. Maybe like I'll just mention some of the skits that like you mentioned the skits,
Sure.
the thing that
Uh-huh.
come into mind. Do you remember that New York Mugger skit?
New York Muggers, of course, classic skit.
I
Right.
think that's skit. Like I think of classic scouting because I remember like when I
Yes.
came as a weeblo to remember what's the January trip called?
Winterfest.
Winterfest. I remember Winterfest. I saw like the one skit where Tim Park was the
Uh-huh.
guy being mugged, and Tim Park
Uh,
is like tiny. I think it was like
right.
I think it was like Horwath was like one of the
Uh-huh.
muggers and like some other tall dude, and Tim
Uh-huh.
Park was just like lifted up, like turned upside down, like shake out all the money, and it was hilarious. I don't know.
Oh wow.
That skit is always I think the funniest one.
I see. I see. I could kind of imagine. Yeah, it's they actually had money then. Now they just like beat him up, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess they used to have like money shit. You used to be shaking out.
Yeah, you can see the money should come out of his like pockets. I was like, this is hilarious.
That's funny. That's funny. I see. Favorite camping trip?
Favorite camping trip? Oh man, that's a great question. I gotta let me think about this for 1 second.
Yeah.
Whatever comes to mind, it may not actually be it because there's been so many.
Right. There's
But
been right. Yeah. Because
no,
it might be one that we do every year. It's like a tradition one, or it's just something out of the norm. You know, that might be the favorite.
I'll give you two. I'll give you
Mm,
one as like a good experience. I would say like not traditional camping, but it was like a really awesome trip.
mm.
Was like going to Boston, right?
Oh, the which one? We went to Boston multiple
Oh,
times.
the first one.
The
I
first
couldn't go
one.
to the second
Okay.
one.
Okay.
First one,
Ah. Okay.
because it was like I was super young. I got
Mm,
to see all the museums and like I'd never gone to Boston before. It was crazy that I was able
mm.
to go on like a scouting trip for like 4 or 5 days. And
Right.
still camped out a little bit on the side of it. It was amazing.
Mm.
And I would say the second trip, a more traditional trip that I would say was awesome was the canoe trip. I think that's the best one.
Delaware canoe trip. Right. True
Classic
tradition. Do it every year. Right.
tradition.
Right. Every single year. I guess for me, like I felt canoe was a lot of work, and so I always liked the Appalachian Trail more, like just
Fair
hiking,
enough.
you know. Um, the high adventure trips are always up there. Sabattis is always up there, but like
Yeah,
the
I didn't
pure,
count those.
right. Yeah, we don't have those are like another level, right? And
Exactly.
then I think were you at the World War II one, the World
Oh,
War II airplane one,
I missed that one.
air
I
show?
went to the
Oh, you
DC,
missed
but
that
not
one.
that one.
The DC one. Was
You
I
might
there
have
with
been.
the DC? I might have been at the DC one. There were multiple again. There's multiple DC trips. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I remember the
Yeah.
DC one clearly because that was the day we were walking on the street of DC when Mark Trella kicked a trash bag on the side of the sidewalk, but it wasn't the trash bag, it was a person.
Yeah, it was almost it. Yeah,
Oh my,
I wasn't there for that one, but
that was terrible.
you guys could not stop talking about it. And then the guy
That was
started yelling at you guys, and you guys were running for your lives,
yeah.
right?
I was like, I felt that was not okay. I don't know. I felt so bad.
Uh-huh.
I'm like a 8-year-old, so what can I do, right? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it was just experiences like that, right? Yeah, it was
I
very
never forget.
Sailesh, thanks for coming on. Um, yeah, I think it's pretty interesting talking to you, and it's been a while again since we talked last time, and so definitely like since what I'm doing is with podcast 22, we could do the next one we do would be 22.1, and for us too, we could just see how much it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was awesome talking to you today, Austin. It was great. And I think
Yeah.
this podcast is a great idea. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think I just want to get more views, and then I certainly felt I got a lot more, yeah, perspective. You know, it's just because everyone like is in their like kind of bubble. You know what I mean? It's not voluntary. It's just like because everyone has different life experiences, right? But if you hear more, then I guess you just see more bubbles, whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right. Thanks, Sailesh.
Thanks.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Bye.